Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're back working on the van again today. So you can see here behind me we have the van and we are having the body fixed. So right now the body is back on the frame here. So we have it back on the frame because we need to have this core support over here repaired, and he told me that he would rather have the body on the frame so that it can be correctly replaced and repaired. So that's why you see the body back on the frame here, and it'll be sitting like this until we can get this thing over to the body shop to have this all fixed up in the front corner here. So we're going to have that done a little bit later, but to make this a lot easier, there's no engine. So without the engine in here, this will make his life a little bit easier, give him better access. Don't have to worry about the coolers or anything like that. So that being said, we have an engine. So we have the engine over here. And what we're going to be doing with this engine is we're going to be pulling the valve covers off and all the rockers. And there is a sequence to removing the rocker arms from here. So I'm going to go through that sequence with you and show you what the proper way is to remove these rocker arms. Now, there's a lot of stuff under the valve covers of these things. So we have to move a whole bunch of stuff out of the way to get these stupid things off. And we have to go through the whole process of that. So I'm hoping to get the heads off today, see what the block looks like. However, we may not get to that, but the main goal of this video here today is show you what's under these valve covers and show you the proper sequencing for moving rocker arms so that we don't damage anything in the process. So work on the van here. So we have a bracket. This bracket needs to come off. If you have a pickup truck, it'll be probably the FICM. I haven't worked on a 6-liter pickup truck yet. So we need to remove this bracket. Somebody already has lost the nut down here. Not surprising. So we have these two nuts on the top of the valve cover here that we need to take off. We lift this bracket off of here. Now we're going to leave the crankcase vent on here because it doesn't need to come off. It's only attached to the valve cover. So we're just going to go ahead and pull the valve cover off. And that's a bunch of 12mm bolts. So always remember where your studs and bolts go. And now we have the log. So this is where I hate 6 liters. Standpipes, dummy plugs. This is dumb to me. I understand that this is a better design. However, this is really a pain in the butt. So there's a bunch of T30 Torx that holds the oil rail on here. So before we take out these T30 Torx, I'm actually going to take out the standpipes and dummy plugs. So you can see we have a good bit of oil still in here. Now we're going to be replacing these with new ones because we have the new ones here. Now when I pull this rail off, we're going to get a lot of oil. So I'll probably rotate the engine up a little bit so in hopes that that oil will flow back down into the crankcase where we can drain it out of the oil pan again. However, you don't want to be taking out anything else from this rail. The reason I took the dummy plugs out and the standpipe out is because I'm going to be pulling this completely out of here anyway, and we're going to be changing everything out anyway, so they're going to be getting replaced anyway. Now, a lot of guys will try to reuse these, and it's ill-advised to do so. Now, we didn't have any hot starts or any problems like that with this van. These rings actually don't look bad on here at all, so that's a good thing that we don't have any issues with those. Now, You don't technically need to replace these. Most shops will try to get away with not doing that. However, if you have a reliable shop, a reputable shop, when you do injectors, they're going to give you a bill for standpipes too, because you should be rechanging those as well. So we have these taken out of here. They're not very tight, so you can actually take them out later on if you really wanted to. But we're going to go ahead and pop all these Torx out of here and get this rail off. That one's pretty tight.
We're just going to break all these loose with the ratchet. It's never ending coolant with this thing.
So this rail is still full of oil. As you can see, we have a lot of oil coming out here. So I'm just going to let that sit here and drain. And then we can start to work on the injectors here and then also the rocker arms. So I'm going to clean up my little bit of mess that I just made and we'll get back at it. So cleaned up our mess here and we took all of our bolts out and bagged them. So now we can go ahead and take our rail here and I'm going to take it and flip it over on the table. So now that that's on the table, it's going to make a mess on the table now. And we have our valve train assembly here. And we have our injectors and everything that you can see here. So we need to disconnect our injector plugs out of the rocker box here. And then we can start working on getting the rockers out. So there is a trick to doing the rockers here. And it all involves the crankshaft. So I will show you what to do to get the crankshaft aligned to make sure that these rockers are in the proper placement so that you can get them off without damaging anything. So now we're going to go ahead and take the rocker arms off. Now we did get the other valve cover off and got the other oil rail off, and that's the perfect opportunity to check your nipple cups and see if they need to be serviced, replaced, or anything like that. They should be stiff to move, not very loose. I wanted to show you this dowel pin. So the dowel pin, which I know is hard to see, needs to be in the 12 o'clock position, so that'd be straight up. And it's between these two bolts here. So I'll zoom in, show you that, and then I'll show you why that's important. So this dowel pin right here, the dowel hole in the harmonic balancer, needs to be at the 12 o'clock position. And the reasoning behind the 12 o'clock position on the dowel pin is because you want these two rockers to be loose. You can see that these have some play. Not all of them. Okay. So 12 o'clock position, you want these rockers to be loose to remove the rocker arms. Okay. So if you turn it to the 12 o'clock position and one of these is loose and one of these is tight, then you need to rotate the crank a full 360 degrees so that the dowel pin is back at the 12 o'clock position, and that will make these two rockers free. Now with the harmonic balancer dowel at 12 o'clock, you can do 1, 7, 2, and 8. So you can remove these 4 cylinders rocker arms and you won't do any damage to anything. So you want to go ahead and remove those 4 cylinders, and we'll do that now, and then we'll move on to the other 4 cylinders. So before we get too far, we're going to get these injector plugs out. And you can see I got this one out already. So if you don't have the fancy tool, you can use a 19 or a 3/4 inch socket here and just kind of work it over your clips. and give it a little push in there. So that takes them out. And what I usually do is I'll take the socket on the plug here and get the top pushed in and then work it over the bottom ones. So you don't need a special tool for those. However, what they tell you with these stupid rocker arms is, they want you to get a special tool to compress the springs and do all this other crap, which we're not going to do. So the easier way to do this is you have to take all the head bolts out, and you can then start to remove the rocker arm assembly as a whole. So what we have to do is we need to mark these so that we know where these go. They want these to go back in the same spot. Even though we're using new heads and using new push rods, we still want to mark these so they go back to where they were. It just makes life a little bit easier. So we're going to use a new marker for this. And we're going to do one with an arrow, and then we'll do a 2 with an arrow, 3 with an arrow, 4 with an arrow, and 5 with an arrow. So now what that is okay, so we have the front of the engine with the arrow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We just have to make sure that we know that this is the passenger side. So if you wanted to put a P on there anywhere, or right, or whatever you want to do, that's fine. And what we'll do is we'll just keep the left and right separate so that when we go to take all these off, we can put them back in the same position. Now, we're going to have to take the head bolt out first, and then you can take these 2 bolts out secondly and remove the rocker arm assembly as a whole. Now, before we start doing that, I had mentioned earlier that we have 1 and 8 loose. So we can go ahead and get this one off and this one off, and then the same on the other side here. So we'll go ahead, mark this other side, and get these off. So we're going to go ahead and remove these head bolts out of the way here. Now you can see I was checking these rocker arms. You want to make sure these are loose before you take these bolts out and everything, because you want to make sure that you're not going to be putting any stress on anything like the rocker arms. So we loosened this bolt up, but we did not remove it. So we can go ahead and take out these and get these rocker arms off of here. So we have those off. Now we can go ahead and remove the actual rocker arms themselves. And that would be these bolts here in the middle, these little guys. So you can see we took this first one off here, and we have the actual top of the rocker here, which we're going to leave for right now, but we're going to go ahead and get these other loose ones off. So now we have this last cylinder here in the middle, but we're going to repeat this process on the other side. Now, like I said, we are going to be replacing our push rods, so we're not going to be too worried about marking our push rods where they came out because they'll be being replaced. But the actual rocker bridge here, we're going to try to make sure we put these back in the same spot, even though we're still doing heads here. So I'm going to take these off and lay them down so that I know exactly where they were, but we'll do that after I get this last bridge off of here. But we're going to do the other side before we do this side. So we got our other side done that you can't see here on the flip side here. Now, what I did on the other side was I checked to make sure the rocker arms were loose. Now, that's the idea here, is you want these rocker arms to be loose when you do this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to spin the crank over 180 degrees again, and it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt since we're not going to be able to relieve that pressure. So we may have to end up taking these injectors out to relieve that pressure because we're not opening and closing our valves anymore. So the next step here I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these injectors out and set them off to the side, and that way we have a way to get the crankcase pressure out, which will make it a lot easier to turn over. So if you don't have a long T45, I suggest getting one because this isn't exactly ideal here. And the reason I say that is because the body of the short T45 actually pushes on the injector a little bit, and I don't really like it that much. So we need to torque all this back down. So that'll be something I'm going to be investing in. So I'm going to get a long T45, something that'll fit down in here nice and easy, where that we don't have to worry about damaging the injector. So the injectors are all pulled out here. So I'm just going to leave them float there for now so nothing goes down in the cylinder. But what's going to happen here is it's going to let all the compression out through the injector hole, so we don't have to worry about trying to spin this over without the rocker arms attached. So you can see we did a full rotation on the crank here, and that lets this assembly be much looser. The opposite side is not really following through there, but we can go ahead, pull this side off, and then we can go ahead and do the other side. And what we'll do is we'll rotate the crank around so that what you do is you basically just rotate it around until those rocker arms are loose like this. And whenever they're loose like that, you know that they're safe to take off. So we have this whole one side removed, and then we can go ahead and spin the crank over to where the other rocker arms are loose. So for the rocker arms on the other side, the dowel pin, instead of it being at the 12 o'clock position, would need to be somewhere around the 2 or 3 o'clock position. And that would be for the number 2 and 4 and 6 and 8. So we have obviously a 4-valve head here, so it's a little bit of both cylinders there. So we'll go ahead and loosen these two guys up and get these out of here, and we can start pulling injectors and rocker boxes and the head. So we have our injectors here. Now we're going to pull these out, and these are still good injectors. There are not that many miles on them, so not looking to destroy these. So we're going to pull these out along with the hold down here. So pull these guys out of here, and you can see that they say pure power on them there. So these are an Alliant reman, and we're just going to put them all in a bag here to keep them from being contaminated. So we'll do the same thing on the other side there. Now we have our hold downs here. Now the hold downs doesn't really matter where they are or where they go, so we're just going to collect these up and pull them out. Now the rocker bridges, if you feel like marking them, you're more than welcome to. Um, they don't have really a direction or anything like that. You can see that some are up, right side up, and some are upside down. So it doesn't really matter where these go. You just want to make sure that they're not worn very badly. You don't have any marks or anything on them. And realistically, these can go just about anywhere they need to go, because we are going to be replacing the head completely. We can just pull them off and toss them in a bag, and we'll put them back on whenever we go to put the new head on. So now that we have the rocker bridges out of here, we have everything out of the way, we have our push rods still that need to come out, and these are going to drain oil, which is no surprise. I'm just going to stick these down in the injector holes, because everything that was in the injectors went down into the cylinders anyway. So these can sit here and drain. Now we'll do the same thing we did over here on the other side and get everything cleaned up. So we got the other side done, the same as this. We pulled our push rods out of the way here. And now we can see we have our standpipes here. So we have the standpipe here that needs to come out eventually. But we have a bolt, and the rest of the head bolts here. So we're going to take the rest of the head bolts off, and then we have these 2 bolts up here in the top. So we're going to pull those out and get this rocker box off of here. So all the large head bolts are out. We have these 2 left here. So that should be all holding this rocker box on, and technically this should pop off of here. Nothing ever goes to plan, so we'll see how that goes. So we're finally down to the head here. Now what we're going to do is remove these glow plugs completely out of the way here, because they don't need to be here anymore. We got new ones. We'll definitely check these out, and if they are good, we will keep them, because Ford recently changed their supplier, so we don't know if the new ones are actually any good or not. That's good, they're factory. So at this point, we just have our top row here. So we have bolt, 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 bolt. And that is all that's holding this head to the block itself. And now you can see we have our standpipe here. And I don't know how easy those are to come out. I've never taken one out. So we'll have to just try to get this out of here and see how that comes out. But we're going to go ahead and remove the rocker box on the other side and just try to keep this working evenly. So they make a special tool to remove these. However, I obviously don't have that tool, but we're replacing these anyway. So I try to do this. So you mark up the standpipe here, as you can see, but we're not reusing these. But if you wanted to reuse these, it doesn't damage the inside. So just marks up the outside. But these things are fairly strong, so if you really wanted to reuse these, you can do it that way. But getting these out kind of sucks, so we're not going to be reusing these anyway because we have the diesel sight ones. So not too worried about that. And we perform the same thing on the other side. So at this point now, we still have our bolts at the top here, and we can remove those and try to get this head off of here. Now, to get the head off, I am going to rotate the engine so that we can get a good clean pick with this and use probably the engine hoist to pull these off because I don't feel like hurting myself taking these off. So we got everything set up here. We have a bolt in the back of the head and a bolt in the front of the head. So we're going to go ahead and get our top bolts out. So with that said, there should be nothing holding this head to the block anymore. I could actually hear the gasket decompressing. So now we're going to go ahead, put our strap on here. And get this head lifted off. Gasket was holding us down there. So we've got the head released. We have our dowels here, which are great. So you want to make sure that you don't lose those. So that one came out nice. And then the gasket pulled this one out for me, which is great also. So we have our gasket here. And doesn't look like there's any horrible amount wrong here. Looks like there could be a little bit of a problem right here. Maybe a little bit here. But we were pressurizing our cooling system on this. So don't know if this gasket is the problem or if it's this head. So either way, new gaskets, new heads, that will solve our problem here. So cylinders look good, pistons look good. So get this out of the way and we can get a good look here and see what we're dealing with. So looking this over, the pistons look wonderful. There's good cross hatching in the cylinder walls. Doesn't look like anything is wrong internally here. So we are going to go ahead and get everything cleaned up here. We're also obviously going to be changing our lifters and stuff. So the lifters are going to be another day, but we're going to go ahead and pull this other side off and give it an inspection, and hopefully it looks just as good as this side. So we're going to repeat the process on this side. So now that we have that loose, go ahead and pull this head. Once again, don't lose your dowels here. I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to show that to you. So this gasket doesn't look like it's bad really either. So I'm thinking that we probably have a cracked head on this van. So my suspicions were correct on probably having a cracked head because we don't see anything really obvious on this gasket. If you see something obvious, please tell me so that I know what I'm looking for next time we do this. So doesn't look terrible. And we have this head off of here as well. Doesn't look horrid either. So here we go again. See that right there? That's an O-ring. Don't know where that's supposed to be. But it's not supposed to be there. So let me get this head out of the way and I'll show you this side of the block. So here we can see the inside of the cylinders here. Everything looks good from what we can see here. Same up here. Everything looks to be pretty good. So this is what we like to see. We have a good short block here. We just have to do a little bit of cleaning and preparation here. But we'll be changing the lifters out and getting that branch tube out of here. But that'll be another video. So wanted to get these heads torn off of this thing and see what we had to deal with. I'm very, very pleased with what I see in here. And the only thing that I don't like is that. So that is an O-ring. Don't know where that came from. And then the other O-ring is right there. You can see it sticking out here. So, I'm sure those aren't supposed to be there. I'm not sure where they came from. But like I said, it's hard to say if you have cracks in these heads without getting them fluxed. So hopefully we're just going to combat everything here and just replace everything. I think that's going to be the wisest thing to do. So hopefully you're enjoying my first videos on ripping into a 6-liter. This is the first time I've ever gone into a 6-liter, so I've had to do a lot of research and talk to a bunch of people. A lot of guys have helped me out along the way. If you're watching this video, you know who you are. I don't like to drop names too often because then the people that you forget get mad and the people that they think are helping or aren't helping or whatever. Anyway, so thank you to whoever has helped me along the way with this. And we're going to be refinishing the surface of this block. That'll be another video. the lifters and the branch tube, another video, and we're going to be removing the timing cover and the oil pan and doing all that as well. Those will be other videos. So we're going to have some 6-liter content on the channel here. I know that it's not technically OBS Ford related or 7.3 related, but there's a lot of 7.3 guys that have 6 liters. And there's a lot of 6-liter guys out there that want to do their own work, but don't necessarily have the avenues to research it. A lot of the information is jumbled up. Things have changed over the years. So at the time of the video that I'm making this is the most up-to-date, accurate information. So hopefully you guys can take this away working on your own truck here. And the one thing I didn't mention was there are block drains for the coolant in these. Now they are below this cylinder here under the freeze plug. They take a 8mm hex, so you can actually drain the coolant out of the bottom of the block here, so that whenever you open your cylinders up, you're not getting coolant in them. So coolant is bad. Oil is okay. Fuel is but coolant is bad. So we don't have any coolant inside this engine, which is great. So I'm going to rotate this thing up, put a cover over it so nothing gets inside it. We keep it nice and clean. And we're going to start getting everything dressed here. We're going to rip the front timing cover off and everything and do the oil pan. But we're going to get everything set up here so that we can get this nice and clean and get everything back together. So hopefully you guys are enjoying my videos, and hopefully I'm not screwing anything up. And we're just going to keep trying to make some videos for you guys and show you what's going on here. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.